Namaste devotees and Jai Sita Ram. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to our virtual Sunday morning service this beautiful Sunday, August 30th, 2020. At this time, devotees, I ask so we all please clasp our hands, close our eyes. We focus our minds on the feet of Bhagwan as we commence with our puja and prayers for this morning. Om Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnata Purnamurachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Ishavasyam Nidam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat Ten Tyaktina Bhunjetam Magrudhakasya Swidhanam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahavedyam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahe Hari Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Devotees, may we all join together as we chant the most powerful Gayatri Mantra. Om Magakshe Varade Devi Akshare Brahma Vadini Gayatri Jagate Matar Vishwayoni Namostute Om Bhore Bhuaswa Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayata Om Bhore Bhuaswa Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayata Om Bhore Bhuaswa Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayata. Hari Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Prem se bolo Gayatri Mata ki Jai. As we continue on with our prayers, devotees, I ask that we all join together as we offer prayers to that destroyer and remover of all obstacles in our life, as we offer prayers to Lord Ganesh. Om Shri Ganapate Namaham. Om Yajananam Buddha Ganadhi Sevitam Kapita Jambu Palachara Bhakshanam Umasutam Shoka Vinashakarakam Namami Viganeshwara Pada Pankajam Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirviganam Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvadam Om Raksha Raksha Ganadhaksha Rakshitre Lokya Rakshakar Bhaktanam Bhayam Karta Trata Bhava Bhavaranavar Om Shriman Mahaganadhipate Namaham Prem se bolo Ganesh Bhagwane ki Jai. As we continue on with our prayers, devotees, we offer obediences to that universal mother and that destroyer of all evils in our lives. We offer praise to Adi Shakti Durga Mata. Om Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhandra Kali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Natri Swaha Swadha Namostute Jetvam Devi Chamunde Jai Putharti Nihardini Jai Sarvagate Devi Kaleratri Namostute Adivi Sarvabhuteshu Vishnu Maiti Shamdita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Lakshmi Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shraddha Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shanti Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Tushti Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Daya Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matri Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namah Dehi Saubhagyam Arogyam Dehi Me Paramam Sukham Rupam Dehi Jayam Dehi Yashonehi Tushojehi. Devotees, for today, I want you to focus on one word. That one word that we're going to focus on today is known as meditation. When it comes to meditating, we all have different ways and different forms in which we can focus on Bhagwan and meditate. For some of us, it may be how we chant that Mother Durga prayer. Devi Sarvam Bhuteshu. For some of us, it may just be a single prayer that we can chant to help us meditate. Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundhai Viche. And for some of us, it may be through song or through chanting a little more vocally. So for those of you who wish to sing the praises of Adi Shakti Durga Mata, at home you can simply chant Jai Jai Ambe Bhavani Ma, Jai Jai Ambe Bhavani Ma. Keep your eyes closed, keep your mind focused on Mother Durga. Jai Jai Ambe Bhavani Ma, Jai Jai Ambe Bhavani Ma. Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadra Kali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Dhatri Swaha Swadha Namostute Jai Jai Ambe Bhavani Ma, Jai Jai Ambe Bhavani Ma. There are so many different ways in this world, devotees, that we can meditate. Choose what works best for you so that you are able to focus your mind as you offer prayers to Bhagwan. Prem Adi Shakti Durga Mata Ki Jai. Devotees who continue offering prayers to that universal remover of all things adharmic, to that sustainer of all things dharmic, all things righteous in this universe. We offer prayers to Lord Vishnu. Om Shantakaram Bhujagashayaram Padmanabham Surisham Vishwadharam Gagane Satrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Om Lakshmi Kantam Kamalinayanam Yogi Bhera Dhyana Gamyam Vanni Vishnu Bhavamaya Haram Sarvaloke Kanatam Om Sashankha Chakram Sakirita Kundhalam Sapita Vastram Sarasirurekshanam Sahara Vakshastala Shobhikostu Bhashriyam Namami Vishnu Shirasa Chaturabhujam Namami Vishnu Shirasa Chaturabhujam. For those of you who wish to offer a prayer, it would be a song we would sing. Shrimad Narayana 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 Shrimad Narayana 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 Rama Narayana 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 Rama Narayana 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 Krishna Narayana 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 Krishna Narayana 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 Srimad 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 Narayana 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 Om Prem se Guru Vishnu Bhagwan ki Jai. And finally, devotees, we offer prayers to that universal Father and that universal Guru. We offer prayers to that destroyer of all evils in our life and in this universe. We offer prayers to Lord Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Bharapurha Ghaurang Karunavataram Samsar Saram Bhujagendraharam Saravasantam Hirdayardavunne Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami. We join together, devotees, as we chant Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Devotees, we offer this next prayer for all those suffering from various illnesses, diseases, injuries, and ailments. We ask that them have a fast, speedy, and full recovery. We also offer prayer for those transitioning from this world to the next. We ask that their passage may be a smooth and tranquil one. As we join together. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushnivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityuramukshyo Mamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushnivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityuramukshyo Mamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushnivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityuramukshyo Mamrutat. Om Gangarapati Namaha. Om Kartikeya Namaha. Om Nandishwaraya Namaha. Om Asukiya Namaha. Om Shri Sambhasadha Shivaya Namah. Prem se Guru Shiva Shankara Bhagwan ki Jai. Devotees, today, before we continue on with our sermon, we will have one bhajan before we continue.
Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Brahma Murari Surarchitalingam Nirmal Bhasit Shobhitalingam Janam Jadukha Vinashakalingam Tad Pranamami Sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Deva Muni Praravar Chitalingam Kamadaham Karuna Karalingam Ravana Darpa Vinashanalingam Tat Pranamami Sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Sarva Sugandhe Sulepitalingam Buddhi Vivardhan Karanalingam Siddha Sura Suravandhitalingam Tat Pranamami Sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Kanaka Mahamani Bhushitalingam Phanipati Veshtita Shobhitalingam Daksha Suyagna Vinashanalingam Tat Pranamami Sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Kuma Chandana Lepitalingam Pankajahar Sushobhitalingam Sanchita Papa Vinashanalingam Tat Pranamami Sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Devaganarchita Sevitalingam Bhavar Bhakti Bhireva Chalingam Dinakara Koti Prabhakaralingam Tat Pranamami Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Ashtadalo Pariveштиtalingam Sarvasamudbhavakarana-lingam Ashtadaridra-vinashana-lingam Tat pranamami sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Sura Guru Suravara Pujitalingam Suravana Pushpa Sadarchitalingam Parata Param Paramatmakalingam Tat pranamami sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Lingashtakam idam punyam yaha patet shivasanitho Shivalokam-avapnoti Shivena sahamodate.
Devotees, before we continue on with our sermon for today, for those of you who have a guru, I ask that we join together as we offer a prayer to our guru. If not, I ask that you take Lord Shiva in your mind as the universal guru, as we join together. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Prem se Guru Deo ki jai. Devotees, last week when we had finished our sermon, we had finished chanting and reciting verses from chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita. But today we move on to a new chapter, chapter 6, because chapter 5 is all done. And as I had mentioned when we were chanting Mother Durga prayers, today's key word and key focus is about meditation. Because chapter 6, devotees, talks about meditation. What is meditation? What is the purpose of meditation? How do we meditate? How does one meditate? At this point in the world, I think we have an understanding of how we want to meditate, but what does it say in the Bhagavad Gita about it? It starts off at the very beginning of chapter 6, where Bhagavan Shri Krishna is stating to Arjuna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
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 Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma kohorotya sa samnyasi cha yogi cha nanyaragniracha cha kriya yam samniti prahura yogatam vidhi pandava nahyasmanyasta samkalpo yogi bhavati kaschana aruruksur munir yogham karma karanam uchyate yogharudhasya tasyeva samakaranam uchyate. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Bhagavan Shri Krishna goes on to tell Arjuna about those who meditate, because that's how we ended chapter 5. It talks about meditation, it talks about focus. Those who perform prescribed duties without desiring the results of their action are actual sannyasis and yogis. However, those who cease to perform yajnas, such as Agnihotra, yajna, are not sannyasis, and those who merely abandon all bodily activities are not yogis. So in this statement, he's saying that you have to have two pieces to have both things. You can't be one without having something from the other. For those who abandon all bodily activities, you cannot be considered a yogi. Because if you abandon your bodily activities, that means you're not performing your prescribed duties on earth. But you can also not be a sannyasi, a person of Bhagwan, if you cease to perform yajnas, perform agnihotra, perform a havan, essentially, performing yajna, performing duties, performing sacrifices. O Arjuna, now that the wise call niskama karma yoga is non-different from karma sannyasa, because one who is unable to give up the desires for the fruits of action and sense enjoyment can never become a yogi. For a sage who is aspiring to become situated in unwavering dhyana yoga, niskama karma is said to be sadhana, and when he ascends to that stage of yoga called dhyananista, steadiness and meditation, renouncing actions would distract his mind from dhyana. So, somebody who can meditate in this world, somebody who's very good at meditating, is somebody who can control their mind. This is what Bhagavan Krishna is saying. And we've talked about this before in previous chapters. Controlling our mind is very hard. Controlling our mind is very hard. I can give you an example that happened not but about 10 minutes ago. We started puja, and the moment we started puja, Dad moved a piece of plastic and Mom looked over at him. And in that sense, there was a small distraction that occurred, right? Because it happened to me too. I looked over at my dad, then I looked over at my mom, and I smiled. If you rewind back, you'll see it. You may not hear the crumpling of the plastic, but you'll see me look over and go, just a tiny bit. And in that sense, devotees, my mind wasn't controlled. Mom's mind wasn't controlled. Dad was doing his own thing. He was meditating in his own way, so maybe his mind was controlled. He gave me a thumbs up, so that's good. But it's so very difficult for us to control our mind with everything that goes on in the world around us. For those of us who are pet owners, it's very easy for us to lose control of our mind. I know that my sister has her own dog. We have our family dog, Destiny. So it's Destiny and Champ, and they roam around. But I can't tell you the amount of times we sit throughout the day and we hear all of us just yell at the dogs because they're not listening to us, or they're roaming around the yard. They're trying to use the restroom or doing something, and when we call them, they don't run to us immediately. So in that sense, when our pets do something that we don't like, and when they don't listen to us, we lose control. We yell at them. I can tell you the one person that I know that doesn't really get frustrated with the pets that I see very often is Mahendra. Mahendra will go outside, he'll stand with Destiny, and they'll walk back in together, right? But at some point, because we want them to do something specific and they don't listen to us, we lose control over our minds. Even if we have children, if we have a spouse, Or if we have people that we have to watch, nieces and nephews, things along those lines. We lose control of our senses. We lose control of our minds when things go awry. And part of that reason is because we don't take the time to understand the situation. We don't take the time to talk. We don't take the time to verbalize what's going on in our hearts and our souls. So it says that someone who can control their mind, someone who can give up the desire for the fruits and actions of sense enjoyment can become a yogi. Somebody who has steadiness and meditation will achieve dhyana. We are very attached to the things that we do in this world, is what Bhagwan Sri Krishna is saying. We're very attached to how things work. I can tell you right here, when I'm performing puja, I'm trying to control the iPad that I have because I tried to go a little bit more virtual than paper. But the issue with the iPad is the moment I touch it, it asks me to copy and paste something, or it doesn't scroll to the next page, or it scrolls too fast. Or there's some instances where it doesn't open up where I want it to open. So I'm so attached to what I see right here that it causes me frustration. And then when I try to play the harmonium, I mess up the harmonium. Or if I try to sing something, I can't focus on what's coming out of my mouth because I'm so attached to these physical things. But I guarantee you, there's times where I can just close my eyes and play and everything sounds much better than if I focus too hard on it. So let's dive into what he says here in this last verse, which is verse 3. He says, for a sage who is aspiring to become situated in unwavering dhyana yoga, niskama karma is said to be sadhana. And when he ascends to that stage of yoga called bhyananista, steadiness and meditation, understanding what meditation is, renouncing actions which distract him from his mind, turns to dhyana. So he talks a little bit more about what it means to be free from this world, what it means to be detached, what it means to be steadfast in meditation. Bhagwan Sri Krishna goes on to tell Arjuna in verses 4, 5, and 6 of chapter 6 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Yadhahi Nindriyaartesu Na Karamaswanusajjate Sarva Sankalpa Samyasi Yoga Rudastadhochyate Udharir Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasandayet Atmaiva Atmano Manhur Atmaiva Ripurathamana Manhur Atmatmanastasya Yenatmaiva Manajita Anatmanastu Satrutve Varatet Atmaiva Satruvat Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. A tyagi, a person who has become free from attachment to the sense objects and performance of action, is called yoga arudha, adept in yoga, somebody who's very adept in it. For he has given up all desires for the fruits of his actions. All of us have some sense of pride in the things that we do. Pride, moha. Moha is known as pride. We have a sense of pride in the things that we do. And when we perform an action, devotees, we like to see the best outcome possible. But how many of us in this world is situated in happiness no matter what the result of an action is? I can tell you the other day, for me personally, I went to try to build my own pressure pot. I'm trying to cast resin and silicone and do some more craft-like things at home. So I decided instead of me buying a pressure pot, which is about $100, I'm going to make my own cheap because I'm a miser. That's what everybody calls me. I'm a miser. So I go to the store and I get all my supplies, and I get all of my supplies for less than $70. Less than $70. I get the valves, I get the container, I get the sealant, everything that I need to do and make this pressure pot. And so I go on my venture and I start building the pressure pot. And the moment I start building it, I'm having trouble. I try to drill a hole in the top of the container, but the container lid is made out of metal. And the bit I had was a metal drill bit. But I didn't have anything to hold the lid down. So the moment I put the drill on top of the lid and hit the power button, the lid flew everywhere. And then there was sharp metal pieces all around. So then I had to get a new different kind of sealant, a metal epoxy to put around so that it would stay sealed. Eventually I got it all done. And then I went to go put air into the pressure pot. For a pressure pot, in order to cast successfully, you need anywhere between 30 to 40 PSIs. That's a lot. Pounds per, the pressure, the amount of pounds you have inside. The moment I got to 3 PSIs, The entire pot expanded out and was about to explode. I have it on video too. Maybe I can show it one day. You see the top of the lid. It's fine and flat. And all of a sudden it just blows up like this. And then you can see me in the video. You can't see my face. You can see my hands. I freak out and I move away. And I freak out and move away because I don't want to lose my hands, my eyes, my body. But I was upset by that. Serena saw how upset I was. I was like, I really wanted this to work. This was the one thing I wanted to work. But what I didn't try to do in all of that, devotees, was understand that this was an experiment. This was a test. I wasn't sure if it was going to work. So at the end, I should have been pleased with whatever the result is. Because now I know that if somebody tells me I'm going to buy these materials and make a pressure pot, I should say, don't waste your time and money. It's super dangerous and won't work. So no matter what the result, I should have been happy, but I wasn't. Because I was so attached to it being successful. One must deliver the self by detaching his mind from the material world and not allowing it to degrade him, because the mind can be the friend and also the enemy of any follower of Bhagwan. For one who has conquered his mind, the mind is his friend, but for the Jivatma who has not controlled over his mind, it works against him just like an enemy. This can be boiled down to one simple quote. You yourself and your mind are your greatest ally, but also your most evil of enemies. It's what goes on up here that determines our temperament. It's what goes on in our minds that makes us feel bad thoughts, potentially do bad things. For those of us who have anxiety, maybe depression, for those of us who are human, all of us, there's going to be times where we're sitting there, we're perfectly calm, we're perfectly fine, and then we remember something that happened years ago, months ago, maybe yesterday, and then it starts to cause us distress. And then when it causes us distress, we're no longer able to focus on the things that we have in front of us. And why is that? Why is that? Because our mind is our own worst enemy. For me, if I get nervous when I'm doing something, or if I'm about to do something, I have tremors, so my hands will start to shake a little bit. I sweat a lot already, but if I'm nervous, I start to sweat even more. So can you imagine what it was like the first time I had to come up and do a puja? I had to play the harmonium, my hands were shaking, and I was sweating. Because my hands were sweating, I could not hold on to the keys. Because they were shaking, I couldn't hit the appropriate things. And because all of that messed up, everything up here got messed up. I couldn't sing appropriately. And because everything got here messed up, everything up here got messed up. So I wasn't saying the prayers correctly. I wasn't following my steps and orders. I would say, okay, we're going to put Gundam on. Take a piece of cloth and put it in front of the Murti. Those aren't two of the same thing. Because my mind was my own worst enemy at that point, devotees. I let my fear conquer me during that time period. And instead of me attaining perfection, instead of me trying to enlighten those around me, instead of me sharing a very dharmic environment, it became a little bit chaotic. Because the things that I said, the things that I do, the way that I reacted in that situation, the energy that I output affected the energy of those around me. I asked everybody this week to take some time, to sit down and for 5 minutes a day, every day, go to a place in solidarity and sit down and meditate. Try to close your mind off from this world. And I know for some of you, maybe some of those days were successful. On the days that I tried it, it was partially successful. Why was that? Because when I sat down and tried to meditate, I couldn't focus my mind on one thing. I said, okay, today I'm going to focus my mind. So it was Wednesday. Today I'm going to focus my mind on Lord Vishnu. But I was having trouble picturing Lord Vishnu. I thought to my head, what color should he be wearing? What should be in his hands? Should he be standing? Should he be sitting? So then I decided, you know what? Let me go ahead and focus on Lord Vishnu in the form of a snake. And then you know what happened to my head after that? I'm terrified of snakes. I hate snakes. Then I started thinking about the snakes in my yard. Then I thought about, well, what if there was a snake next to me? What would it feel like if it slithered against my leg? So I used my thoughts and my notion to take my head out from meditation and put it into further chaos. Because we cannot control our senses at times, devotees, because we cannot control what we think, our mind, our brain becomes our own worst enemy. It's not the people out there that say the bad things. It's how we take those bad things and let them influence our life. If somebody says they don't like the way those glasses look on your face, at the end of the day, that's their opinion. You shouldn't let that distract you. You shouldn't let that deter you. If you're performing something, let's say you're giving a speech, or let's say that you are doing a charitable event, and you have one person that says, I don't like the way you're doing this, you need to change everything. We know from previous chapters that you shouldn't let your mind delve into chaos. However, you need to stick to your karma, your actions. Don't change it because one person told you to, but don't let your mind be affected by what one person says. I understand that actions do speak louder than words, and sometimes those verbal things that harm us are much more aggressive than the physical things that harm us. But you can't let your mind lose control. You can't delve into fear. Don't let your brain, don't let everything that goes on up here be the enemy towards you in the end. But then he goes on to talk about somebody who has a controlled mind. What is somebody with a controlled mind like? What is somebody with a controlled mind like? Bhagavan Shri Krishna goes on to say in verse 7 of chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Jitatmana Prasantasya Paramatma Samahita Sitasna Sukha Dukhesu Tatamana Pamanayo Jnana Vijnana Nutratatma Kutasto Vijitendriya Yukta Etmuchyate Yogi Samalodhasma Kanchana Sunmitra Yuhudasena Bhadyastasvisya Bhandusu Sadhus ape chapapesu Samabodhir Visyate Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. One whose mind is controlled is free from the dualities of heat and cold, happiness and misery, honor and dishonor, attachment and envy. The soul of such yogi is deeply absorbed in samadhi. A person whose mind is satisfied by jnana and vijnana, whose consciousness is unaffected by material transformation, who has conquered the senses, who looks equally upon sand, stone, and gold, is yoga arudha, adept in the path of yoga. How many of us are free from the duality of cold and heat? None of us. None of us right now are free from the duality of cold and heat. If I go outside right now, if I walk outside right now, anybody who knows me will tell you, I will huff and go, it's hot out here. I don't like it. Because I'm not free from the duality of heat. I hate being in a hot environment. Even now when we perform puja, I always complain, man, the area that I sit in is the hot area. The fan's over there, but I'm sitting in the corner over here sweating. And I let that affect me. How many of us are free from the duality of happiness and misery? None of us are. Happiness makes us feel good. Misery makes us feel bad. Honor and dishonor. That's a very terrifying one, because sometimes we have too much honor in this world. We have too much honor in our lives, and it lets us affect the way we treat others and act in this world. Attachment and envy. We're not free from any of these. But he's saying somebody who is free from these is absorbed in samadhi. A person whose mind is satisfied by jnana and vijnana, whose consciousness is unaffected by material transformation, who has conquered the senses, who looks equally upon sand, stone, and gold, is adept in the path of yoga. This week, devotees, I'm not actually doing this as an analogy. This week, I'm going to come to each one of your houses and I'm going to give you a present. I'm going to come and give you a present. Let's say that I decide to do this. To the first house, I deliver a box of sand. To the second house, I deliver a box of stones. And to the third house, I deliver a box of gold. At this point in time, who do we think the most happiest household is going to be? I know that the answer in your head right now is the household that receives the box of gold, because gold to us today is wealth. So what everybody saw was not the intent of me trying to provide you something to help with your life. What everybody is going to see is, oh, did you see what the pundit did? The pundit favors that family more because he gave them a box of gold. This is what we call being respectful, being balanced when receiving a gift. There are times in this world where we're going to struggle. And when we struggle, devotees, we need that help. But when you receive that help while you're struggling, it is not up to you to cast judgment to that person who is helping you. It is not up to you to slap the hand that feeds you. An example that I have, for me personally, is when I struggled. 8th grade, lunchtime, I don't remember exactly what month it was, I just remember this date. I forgot to take my lunch, because back in the 8th grade, we were taking our own lunches. I forgot to take my lunch, and I didn't have any money to buy lunch. Now, prideful me and teenage me knew that if I asked somebody for money, then I would, one, have to pay them back, which is not a problem, but two, teenagers tend to hold that over you for your entire rest of the year. You remember that day that I paid you? You know, you owe me, man. I saved your life that day. Yeah, one lunch, you saved my life. I got you. Saved your life that day, man. And so we stopped that from letting people help us. We don't ask for help. So I was sitting there. I wasn't eating my food. And the lunch lady noticed that I wasn't eating. So she walks over to me and she goes, "Oh, did you already finish eating your food?" And I couldn't lie to her because I'm assuming she was watching me. So I said, no, I didn't bring my lunch. I don't have anything, but I'll be okay. I told her I'll be okay. I'll be fine. She goes, "I'm the lunch lady. My job is to make sure you're fed. You will absolutely not be fine. Come with me." So she takes me over to the kitchen, and then right where they they have the cash registers and you pay for your meal, she gave me a sandwich. She made me a sandwich. So it was white bread. It was peanut butter and honey. White bread, peanut butter, and honey. I looked at the sandwich and I was thankful I had something to eat. So I went back and ate the sandwich. And as I was eating the sandwich, I'd be like, "Can you believe this? She just gave me a peanut butter and honey sandwich on white bread." So this is teenage me, right? Because we know that sometimes, I'm sorry, kids, forgive me for saying this because I was there too. Teenagers can be quite ungrateful at times for the things that we're given. I was there. I know exactly what it feels like. We know it all. We know the world apparently, and we're not always grateful for the things that we're given. So for me, I was like, "Oh God, she just gave me this peanut butter, honey, and white bread sandwich." All right, whatever. So I went on through the day, and I got to tell you, the day wasn't bad. I mean, I was fed. I had something in my stomach. I was able to think clearly. Can you imagine what would have happened if I didn't eat? My family knows that if I don't eat, I get hangry. I get angry because I'm hungry. Can you imagine what would happen to me during the rest of the school day if I didn't eat? I still had 4 more classes to get through. It would have been a miserable day. And then I would have come home and been even grumpier. Probably raided my mom's pantry and dad's pantry and taken and eaten all of their food. But what I didn't recognize at the time was that the lunch lady gave me something that had carbohydrates to maintain sugars in my body. Something with a little bit of sugar, the honey, to help provide energy. And something with protein, peanut butter, to help push me through the day. She gave me a meal that had 3 essential things that I would need to complete my day successfully. But what did I see? My pride didn't let me see a good meal. My pride let me see something that was subpar than what it actually was. She gave me gold. And what I saw, devotees, what I saw was sand. And I shouldn't have seen that. I should have appreciated what was given to me at that time. So, for those of you who go and decide to buy jewelry next time, go buy sand. Go buy a sandstone. Buy a sand necklace. Right? That may save us. But we shouldn't be so attached to things. Jewelry is going to be jewelry. Rings are going to be rings. Watches will be watches. The physical things in this world will be the physical things. If somebody takes the time to give you a gift, don't turn your nose up. If you have a wedding and you don't get, pots and pans, but instead you get sheets, be grateful for that. Be grateful for everything that you were given. But what Bhagwan Sri Krishna is saying is that we look equally upon sandstone and gold to be on the path of yoga. We can't do that right now. We're still attached to those things. So again, if I were to go to these different households, what's going to happen? People are going to judge the gift that I've given. And then they're going to go back and say, "Oh, do you believe this? The pundit loves this family more than he loves this family." When that's not the case. It was trying a charitable act. One who looks upon well-wishers. This is a very important. Verse number 9. One who looks upon well-wishers, friends, enemies, neutral people, arbiters, and envious people, relatives, saintly persons, and sinners with equal vision is even more exalted. A person who is truly religious in this world, a person who is truly exalted, a person who is truly on the way to the path of Dharma, a person who will achieve moksha, is someone who sees everybody equally. What is the difference between a Republican and a Democrat? For those of you who thought something bad when I asked that question, shame on you. That's a fault on you. For me, the only difference between a Republican and a Democrat is just their ideal beliefs and how the country needs to be run. If I was a staunch Republican, I'm not going to say a Democrat's spineless. And if I'm a Democrat, I'm not going to say that a Republican is a rich know-it-all. Because I guarantee you, when I asked you what the difference is between a Republican and a Democrat, that may have come into some people's head. There is no true difference between people in this world. Everybody is equal. Look at what he's saying. Neutral people, enemies, friends, well-wishers, envious people, relatives, saintly persons, sinners. We look at all of them equally, but we don't do that. We cast judgment, and we cannot cast judgment. My favorite commercial in this world is a commercial with a little boy in a classroom. And in this setting, they were having lunch. So each one of the kids pulls out their lunch from underneath their desk. And this little boy pulls out his lunch container and there's nothing in it. Because he and his family, the assumption is, cannot afford to buy food. And so what does this little boy do? He doesn't want to be embarrassed. So he closes his lunchbox very calmly. And then he asks the teacher, can I go use the restroom? Can I go do whatever? So he leaves the classroom. He uses the restroom. He gets enough water from the water fountain, because water was free, to fill his stomach. And then he walks around the school. And then he comes back to the classroom and he sits down. And kids are still eating. They're enjoying themselves. They're talking. He still feels embarrassed. So what does he do? He lifts his lunchbox up, hoping that nobody would notice that he hasn't eaten, to put it away in his desk. But as he lifts his lunchbox up, he notices that the weight is very different. The weight of that lunchbox is 100% different. He opens it up, and on the inside are grapes, bread, cheese, and crackers. Things he didn't have before. So then he decides to look around the classroom because he doesn't know what happened. His classmate to the left was eating the same green grapes that were in his lunchbox. The classmate that was in front of him was eating the same cheese that was in his lunchbox. The classmate to his right was eating the same crackers that was in his lunchbox. And the classmate behind him was eating the same bread that was in his lunchbox. Collectively, all of these children saw that their peer, their friend, was struggling. They saw that somebody in this world needed help. And instead of casting judgment, instead of saying, oh, he's poor, whatever, or instead of making some assumption about him, they made sure that their classmate was taken care of. They made sure that he had eaten, that he was happy throughout the day. Those kids, maybe not followers of Sanatana Dharma, are probably the most dharmic in that situation compared to the rest of the human race. Bhagavan Shri Krishna goes on to state, finally, devotees, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Yogi Yunjita Santatam Atma Damrahasi Stita Ekaki Yatha Chittatma Nirasir Aparingraha Suchades Pratistapya Stiramasanam Atmana Nayuchritam Ratinicham Chailajit Akusottaram Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. So he gets to the point, devotees, to talk about meditation. Bhagwan Shri Krishna states, while residing alone in a solitary place, controlling your your chitta, your thoughts and body, devoid of desires and not accepting sense objects, a yogi should absorb his mind in samadhi, in truth and dharma. Just like I gave you this week, devotees. I told you, well, actually, what I told you last week was I want you to sit in an area where you would have distractions around you, so you could try to focus your mind. But what Bhagwan Krishna is saying here is that you need to reside in a place that's solitary. The reason I gave you that specific homework versus what today is talking about is because you need to understand that what Bhagwan Shri Krishna is saying here is that when you meditate, you need to meditate on your terms. Meditate in an area where distractions won't occur to you. Meditate in a position that's comfortable to you. Do everything that you can to devoid your mind of desires and sense objects and absorb your mind in samadhi. Bhagwan Shri Krishna goes on to say this about meditation. Once you are in that sanctified place, devotees, to finish your meditation, you'll be able to learn about those details next Sunday during a regular Sunday morning satsang. Prem se Bolo Krishna Chandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Devotees, at this time, because we're running a little short on time, I'll ask that we all please clasp our hands, close our eyes, and that we join together as we continue in chanting our closing prayers for today. Om Sarvesham Swasti Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shanti Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Om Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukabhag Bhavet, Om Mantrahinam Kriyahinam Bhaktihinam Janardanam, Yatya Pujitam Maya Deva Paripurnam Tharastu Me, Papoham Papo Karamaham, Papo Atma Papo Sambhava, Trahimam Pundari Kaksham Sarva Papo Haro Hari. Om Tvameva Matascha Pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityoma Mritam Gamaya. Hari Om Shanti, 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 Hari Om. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Dhyav Shantir Antarikshagvam Shantir, Prithvi Shantir Apa Shantir, Aushadhaya Shantir Vanaspati Shantir, Vishwadeva Shantir Brahma Shantir, Sarvegvam Shantir, Shantireva Shanti Sama, Shantireti. Hari Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Prem se Bolo Ganesh Bhagwan ki Jai. Prem se Bolo Adi Shakti Durga Mata ki Jai. Prem se Bolo Vishnu Bhagwan ki Jai. Prem se Bolo Shiva Shankar Bhagwan ki Jai. Prem se Bolo Shiva Shakti Mandir ki Jai. Prem se Bolo Sanatana Dharma ki Jai. Devotees, with this we have come to the end of our Sunday morning satsang, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here with us today. Just a few quick announcements, devotees, as we are working through and getting our virtual services more streamlined. We're working on the transition between doing virtual service from this beautiful mandir here at my parents' house to going back and doing virtual services in the mandir. But in order for us to do that, devotees, we need to upgrade our equipment and the supplies that we have. And I know that a few of you have asked and requested to assist in donating with those supplies. So if you look at the description for this YouTube video, what you'll see down there is an Amazon wish list of the various supplies, equipment, and tools we'll need. So that way, when we move back to the mandir, we're fully equipped to continue performing our virtual services, and we can continue to share Sanatana Dharma for all of those who can't attend in person. So if you'd like to make a donation, devotees, you can go down to the description of this specific video and you'll see the link for the Amazon wish list, and you're more than welcome to purchase things there. It gets sent directly to us, but if you have hesitations, you're more than welcome to give us a call, send us an email, Shiva Shakti Mandir Georgia @gmail.com, and we can answer any questions that you may have. Just a few more announcements just for everybody to be aware of. The month of September is quickly approaching. I believe we have 2 days. So Tuesday marks the 1st of September, but it also marks the period that we have and we know, devotees, as Pitru Paksh, September 1st through Wednesday, September 16th. During that time period, devotees, it's an auspicious period for us to worship and pay respects to the ancestors that came before us and laid the path and the road for us to be where we are today. For us to celebrate, as I mentioned last week, all you have to do every morning is grab a cup filled with water, a spoonful of till. Till is black sesame. You offer that water towards the south, and as you chant and offer that water, you chant and say, Om Pitri Bhyo Namaha, Om Pitri Bhyo Namaha, Om Pitri Bhyo Namaha. My ask is that as you offer this, take your time and do it. Don't take the water and dump it down really quickly and go Om Pitri Bhyo Namaha and walk inside, because that's not really paying respect. That's you being more focused on what the day has ahead of you in the time span, rather than being focused on what we need to be appreciative for, which is the ancestors that came before us. So that is, again, from Tuesday, September 1st, this Tuesday, through Wednesday, September 16th. So that's the only time period that I have for you. That's the only announcement I have for the month of September. I'm also getting a few announcements from our president here. We do have a few birthdays to celebrate, or a few birthdays that have occurred over the past week. The first birthday that we like to celebrate, let me make sure I have all these down. We have 5 people celebrating birthdays, actually. Shivani, who I know has been working very hard and will be, I think, moving. I don't know if she's already gone or if she's still here, but she just celebrated her birthday this week. So happy birthday, Shivani. Vidya Kumar, happy birthday to you. Sister Hema's son, Darshan. Darshan, very happy birthday to you, young man. Uncle Jai, Sugrim, and Uncle Tony. To all of you, very, very wonderful. Happy birthday. May Bhagwan continue to bless you today, tomorrow, and every day for the rest of your lives. Happy birthday. I hope you celebrated well. On behalf of the Shiva Shakti Mandir, the executive board, myself and my family, we want to wish you and extend to you all joyous celebrations and a very happy birthday. Devotees, with that being said, I don't believe we have any other announcements. We want to thank you for taking the time to be here with us, either live during this service or watching this service later on in the week. We hope that you all have a safe, happy, wonderful, and healthy week, and we will see you again next Sunday for a regular morning satsang. Jai Sita Ram, devotees.